Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I wish to welcome you all to the African Tea Time session this afternoon and evening for others. And first, I want to introduce myself. I'm Damaris Choti. I'm the coordinator of student and alumni programs for the African Studies Center, Michigan State University. And I wish to welcome you all here. And I'm even more pleased to welcome our speakers for today that are going to lead us on a very important topic. And that is youth empowerment through mentorship and civic engagement with a focus on Namibia and Nigeria. And we want to thank and welcome our two young people that have accepted to lead in this discussion. And I will start with by introducing Joseph. And Joseph Ndondi is our speaker from Namibia. And Joseph is the founder and executive director of Social Enabled Education, abbreviated as C, Namibia, a non-profit organization dedicated to civic engagement and voter education. And Joseph is going to take us through the work that his organization or their organization do, and what that says or tells us about the work that organizations like his or the younger people are doing to make society better, starting with their communities. The second speaker will be Paul Ojo, and Paul is a graduate student here at Michigan State University in the Department of Plant, Soil, and Microbial Sciences, and also is the founding president of Youth Mentors Hub Initiative in Nigeria. And also Paul is going to take us through the work of his organization, the Youth Mentors Hub. So without much introduction, and I want to remind our speakers that please feel free when your time comes to tell us more about yourself. If there's something more that you want us to know about yourself, please feel free to do that. If that is going to come as part of your presentation, that's also welcome. But at this time, I'm going to give it to Joseph to start the presentation. And as we do it here at Tea Time, we do the presentations first, and we engage our speakers after their talks with questions and comments. But you feel free to raise your hand to ask a question. Feel free to type your question in the chat as we go along. So thank you so much again, Paul and Joseph. And Joseph, it's your time.
No, thank you very much, Damaris, for having me on Africa Tea Time. It's an absolute pleasure. And yes, as you have introduced me, I am the executive director and founder of C Namibia. Our organization really focuses on empowering young people to be at the forefront of democratic participation. And what we have done over the past few years is just really engaging on the problem of ensuring that young people are accepted in their own community. They're accepted in their own household as well. Because one of the key things we've realized is while we're talking about democracy, we're engaging young people on civic engagement, it starts from home, right? Where our young people need to be able to understand the key values within their own community and how they reflect to our democracy as a whole. Namibia is a blueprint to democracy across Africa. We recently just lost the president, but our transition was really, really soft. And you could see that whole coordination was done with the help of the youth, and it was very done effectively. And we really, really appreciate that, because what we have seen is the commitment that young people are really able to deliver on. While we celebrate young people with 50% of our young people really also engaging in democratic processes at the current moment as we speak. And we also celebrate women as a wholelarity. 55% of our parliament consists of women. And out of all of those young women, they are from marginalized communities. And that tells you the direction of where we are headed as an institution and what we want to focus on as well. So our political engagement as an organization is to say, what opportunities can we be able to provide to young leaders that have the potential to be able to drive the policies in the near future of our decision-making processes. With the 2024 presidential and national assembly elections, we are currently focused on a project, youth election project, that we are focusing on. And the youth election project really just focuses on workshops that we are carrying out to ensure that we provide civic and voters education, to train election observers, and also more so importantly, to ensure that young people are not just are not just talking about politics on social media, but are actually being involved. We have campaigns on registering to vote. We have campaigns on political manifestos from all political parties. Unfortunately, our country still doesn't have presidential debates, but we do have political manifestos that are carried out by political parties. And for us is to ensure that young people are in that process as well. What I would love to say is, with where we are and what we've been able to achieve so far with the workshops that we've been able to carry out, we have an understanding that young people still are lacking information to be able to really impact the work that needs to be carried out. And because of a lack of information and also high misinformation on social media, it's always a challenge to engage different institutions and different entities. But however, we have seen that the positivity of young people willing to collaborate and engage has been set, because for us as a generation, what we have gotten to realize in Namibia is to say, we are not going to sit down anymore and wait for us to be given positions. We are going to go and get those positions as young people. We are going to go and prove our worth to who we are as individuals, and the values that we're raised with at home. And those are the values that we believe are going to raise our country effectively. So having said that, I think one of the key things that I would point out is, from here on out, as the 2024 Presidential and National Assembly aligns, we are focusing on technology as a sustainable means to ensure that young people are really involved. With the mobile application that we have coming up, hopefully we will be able to share that with you guys, so you can also be able to see the technology that we have. We believe that it will be easier to engage young people, and we believe that young people really have that responsibility in that engagement, because the problem that we have seen is polling stations lines are very long. You know, when you are in a voting line, it's very sunny, you are out, you are drinking water, there's nothing else to do. We are then trying to make it engaging by making sure that we provide transportation to young people that are going to be voting. And with that, we are solving the problem that we have seen in the 2019 presidential elections, to say, when young people had the opportunity to go and vote, they didn't go and vote because they thought they would vote a bit later, but they didn't have the transport to get to the polling stations that they needed, and the polls closed early. And so with that having to happen, we come to the realization that now our plan is to work with different municipalities to ensure that all these different municipalities actually give us the resources we need to be able to take these young people to where they need to be. So that is really one of the key fundamental outlook. Our vision, Namibian youth actively participating in democratic processes. Our mission, we aim to be a strategic partner to hold both citizens and the government accountable to the work that we're doing. And that really speaks volumes to who we are as an institution and as an entity. But beyond that, as an organization, really, I'm proud to say that we have taken different young people from just volunteering to actually being in policy formulation positions. We have been able to get young people to really, for example, become spokespersons of political parties. We have gotten them to also be in parliament. We have gotten them to engage as well in different places as well. So that really sets us apart in the way that we engage, because we are really non-partisan, and the trust that young people accord us is the trust that we respect. And between us and our youth, we are saying, let's collaborate, let's work together, because Namibia belongs to all of us. I would want to leave it with the quote from Job Ampanda, who's one of the presidential candidates. I'm in no ways campaigning for him, but I think this quote really speaks volumes to it, which is, for our generation to be where it needs to be, we need to ask ourselves this question: Mommy, Daddy, where were you when Namibia was deteriorating? And that question speaks volumes to what our responsibility as young people and as a generation is. And with that said, I just wanted for our viewers to really also be able to see the work that our young people have been able to see. And Damaris, I would love you to play that short video for us. And that's where my presentation really ends. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for that very brief but well summarized account of what your organization does. Let me have your, where is my stuff to share? Give me a minute here, people.
Damaris, you're giving you more than a minute.
Give me more time. Oh, here it is. I got it. And share. Is it being shared?
Yeah, it is.
So I'll hit, maybe I should start from the beginning, very beginning, and say play.
I'm part of social enabled education. Of course, I feel empowered to make a difference in my country.
I'm part of social enabled education. Of course, I believe in promoting active citizenship.
I'm part of social enabled education. Of course, I'm encouraging my fellow peers to be promoting more.
I'm part of social enabled education. Of course, empowering youth with leadership skills is my mission.
I'm part of social enabled education. Of course, I'm going to encourage the youth to exercise their democratic rights, and that's through voting.
Part of social enabled education. Of course, I'm committed to mobilizing young people for positive social change.
I am part of social enabled education. Of course, I'm a strategic partner for upholding democratic rights.
I'm part of the social enabled education. Of course, I'm interested in both. Guys, are you voting?
Of course, we are voting.
Oh.
So yes, it's as simple as that. Our responsibility is just to really empower young people to take up that responsibility to engage. And we are quite grateful that young people are coming to us now, telling us, hey, you guys should come up with these ideas. You guys should do this. And it's been quite exciting because we are in a collaborative manner to say we are all responsible for all of it. And with all these young people that we have from different political parties, we always tell them, we don't have a problem engaging with different political parties. We have a problem of misrepresentation. When you go and engage with different young people from each political party, we engage with them individually, but we also bring them together collectively to shape the country and where we are. Lastly, I would say the definition of where we are and what we need to do is identify Namibian first. We need to identify ourselves with our nationality first before we need to identify ourselves with our nationality before we identify ourselves with our tribal lines, and also before we identify ourselves with our political parties. And that is really where we are, and we're seeing that change and that improvement within the young people's mindsets.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Pushing that national identity is, of course, important. We know what plagues most of our countries. I will speak for Africa, is the tribal identities. You become your community, you push your community identity first than the national identity, which kind of brings a lot of division in many ways, but we'll talk about that later. And thank you so much. You seem to be doing everything right. Your young people that you presented here in the video are very enthusiastic and looks like they're very engaged as well. Thank you so much. We'll talk about that more. So I will hand over this time to Paul. Paul, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's beautiful to have everyone on the call. And for those that will be listening to this recording later, we appreciate you taking our time to listen to this presentation. So you're going to give me a chance to share my screen, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I hope you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, I'll be sharing my screen as we begin this presentation. Okay.
Yeah, it's being shared.
Correct. I'll be playing an item of our NGO right on the screen, and I'll start that from the beginning. Yeah, so this is an item for our NGO, and then once it's done playing, we move forward with my presentation. Thank you.
Hope initiative we sing. The world's next mentors with wings guiding the way. Youth Mentors Hub Initiative, we sing. Your what's next, mentors with wings guiding the way. Rising together for Africa, we lead.
We'll empower youth to reach for the sky, to follow their dreams and never say die. We'll teach them to embrace the roots of their land. With knowledge and skills, they'll flourish and expand.
Youth Mentors Hub Initiative, we sing. Your what's next, mentors with wings guiding the way. Youth Mentors Hub Initiative, we sing. Your what's next, mentors with wings guiding the way. Rising together for Africa, we lead.
With courageous strength, we'll face every challenge. Our mission to serve for all to manage. We pledge to our future, our children and our king. With unity, we will ensure Africa wins.
Youth Mentors Hub Initiative, we sing. Your what's next, mentors with wings guiding the way. Youth Mentors Hub Initiative, we sing. Your what's next, mentors with wings guiding the way. Rising together for Africa, we lead.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'll be moving on with the presentation. Looking at fostering education and community development in Nigeria. Yeah. All right. So for the non-Nigerians on the call, I will use the first few slides to give an overview of Nigeria. So by 2050, Nigeria is estimated to be on a track to reach over 400 million people. And that this figure has a very huge impact on the different sectors of the economy. An example is the education system. And in the country, we have the 6334 system of education, where we have a 6-year of primary education, 3-year of the junior secondary school education, 3 of the senior secondary school education, and 4-year university system. We do have programs that span above 4 years in the university, but the minimum is 4 years. So 4 is the standard structure. Now, with this population, there is a challenge in the education sector, and this challenge persists. Issues like gender disparity, poverty, obstruction. These are the critical areas that our organization is looking at, especially the education system of the country, given the different barriers to development. And some of the barriers to development, as you must have seen in the media or probably hearing people talking about, has to do with poverty playing a very significant role in underdeveloping the country, and probably to some other part of Africa, but definitely we are using Nigeria as our pilot country. And this basically necessitates the whole holistic approach that we look at to foster sustainable development on that part of the world. So again, talking about developmental challenges, so we have a multidimensionally sphere of poverty in the country, with over 60% people facing these different dimensions of poverty. And we have around 37% having some other reasons for being poor, but we have more diverse challenges that has impoverished the people of Nigeria. And looking at the recent statistic that from 2019 up to date, we have seen an upward trend in poverty rate, ranging from around over 30% in 2019 to currently almost 38% around this current year. Again, looking at the country as a whole, with this population projection, though we are currently over 200 million, but then by 2050, we are probably going to be more than doubled. So we have a high population growth rate with 2.4% growth rate, and urban population is spanning close to 54%. Unemployment rate is huge with around 33.3%. And for the median age, people are in the median age of around 17 years. So looking at like the youth population, we have people in this median age. And some of the other statistics here might not be very relevant, but it just helps us understand the stand of the country, economic-wise and demographic-wise. Now, looking back at the challenges of youth education and development in Nigeria, so the current statistics show an unstable state of the lower secondary school completion rate, with around 53% in 2011 to a lower value of 47% in 2018. We don't have up to this the like 24 data, but up to this value, it shows this fluctuation in the number of the completion rate of this lower secondary school education in the rural areas of communities of Nigeria. And when we look at the upper secondary school, if you remember in my previous slide, I did mention 6334. So the first chart over here is the first three, and the second chart is the second three. So with the second three, we are having a reduction in the amount of completion rate and net school attendance in the rural communities. And with the UNICEF information that Nigeria has over 10 million out of school children, and this is shown to almost be the highest globally. So with this number, I think it is very important to understand that the challenges and the different dimensions of poverty in Nigeria has really put the country on a very challenging trend. And what becomes the country in the next years with these millions of people out of school? Again, gender disparity will persist. We do have this more in the northern part of the country. And again, they have a cultural barrier that impedes guest access to education. Although this presentation is not looking at gender in particular, but then it's very important to know that in northern part of the country, we have higher number of the female gender that are out of school. And as out of 2018, with over 47.7% of students in the official age group for the upper secondary school only attend school. So, and again, with 53% of its youth population unemployed, Nigeria has the second highest rate of youth unemployment in the world. And this is very challenging when we look at the current trend of global development. We do understand that the world has changed. We are in the post-COVID world right now, that things have taken a totally different dimension when it comes to global development. So pre-COVID and the post-COVID global dynamics, they have ways of impacting how the country contribute to global development. And if a country was not doing well before the COVID, there's a higher chance that it will become worse the post-COVID. And we are seeing that in Nigeria. The country was not doing well before COVID. Now post-COVID, things are becoming worse. And that is really challenging when we look at how the current youth and how a nation should play a very vital role in global development. And again, to add to this dynamics, the share of the youth population that are currently not in education or in any form of employment or training is around 36% as of 2019. And even with the updated data, I believe hypothetically that this number will have increased because of the challenges with overpopulation, the insecurity in the country, and a lot of political instability. And again, going back to even those that are in school, people are out of school, they're out of official training. Even those that are in school, they face higher challenges or greater influence of poor infrastructure in public schools. As we can see on the images on the slide, we see kids or secondary school students sitting on the floor to take classes. To be very honest, I do know that people who see this every day in Nigeria, they walk by this side, they go to school, they probably come here for job. They might not understand, but you could imagine the level of knowledge acquisition capacity of these kids when they are in an environment that is not conducive. Even there is what we call knowledge is a bliss. Some of these guys might not even know that there are some better things that could be done to influence or enhance their learning opportunity. So they just go to these schools, manage whatever is available. As you can see on the top right corner, you see kids sitting with part of the floor, dismantled, very poor environment. We could see the building here almost, falling down, and these kids go there every day. We could see by the lower right, a teacher struggling to write on the board that is not, properly designed, not properly structured, and the kids are all just managing to learn in this extremely challenging environment. Really challenging. Now, here is the motivation. Despite these challenges, some students in the rural areas of Nigeria, they face additional hurdles because these guys face greater infrastructural deficiencies and extremely fewer resources. Now, this is a catch. In this situation, yet some of them still persist and achieve academically. Surprisingly, actually, that these guys, despite these challenges, you go to rural communities in Nigeria, you see some few guys that you never imagine how they're able to solve their mathematics, how they're able to even speak good English, how they're able to understand chemistry, biology, despite the challenges that we have enumerated, and even more that we don't have much time to show on the screen. So they show determination and adaptability in the face of adversity. Now, here is the problem. With them even trying to demonstrate adaptability in the face of adversity, these students are limited in the height of academic achievement and personal development. So without any intervention, these guys are mostly limited. How does this limitation play out? You listening to people on the street and they give you a very beautiful story on how they were growing up in their, 6-3-3, but they are unable to move to the fourth structure, as I've discussed earlier. Or even if they are able to move to the fourth structure, they are unable to perform well academically. And they are unable to develop themselves because there is no motivation, there are no people to look up to, there are no mentors, there are no there are no resources that can enhance on the academic knowledge that they had at the lower level that we built on. Now, the question is what next? Given these generally known challenges, like in Nigeria and most part of Africa, the question is what next? And this motivates the development or the establishment of our organization. So, Youth Mentors Hub Initiative is a non-profit NGO based in Nigeria, and our mission is focusing on supporting underprivileged students, and we call them associates in Nigeria. I would like to let people know that this is a continental project. However, we have to start somewhere. So we are starting from Nigeria as our pilot country. Even within the country, we are starting from just a state to learn how the system is going to go, how we're going to do with funding, and to look at the possibility of upscaling beyond the state, within Nigeria, and even beyond Nigeria, within the continent of Africa. So before I move forward, on the lower part of the screen, we have what we call our people. So the people on this system, we have people called associates. So our associates here are basically the first top 5 students in every secondary school from the 4th to the 6th year. So we are targeting the last 3. You remember we have 6, 3, 3, 4. So we are targeting the second 3. Those in the 4th year, the 5th year, and the 6th year in the secondary school. So once we identify this student, we pick the top student in the class. Remember, I do mention that, yes, these students all facing these challenges, but the fact that few of them could still perform academically well despite these challenges, it calls for an intervention, and it calls for support to help them improve beyond the secondary school, and to give them the opportunity to have a chance to develop themselves personally and develop their community, and they will in turn be a leader that will develop Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Then we have another set of people we call the ambassadors. So our ambassadors are typically the university students that they are volunteers in the system because they help in profiling, in searching, in identifying these secondary schools where we can identify the associate. So they help in this regard, and they too are being mentored. But then I'll call them our secondary mentees. Why our primary mentees are the associate, those secondary school guys in the 4th, 3rd, and 5th, and the 6th year. We do have people we call the innovation members, and these guys are mostly the graduate students studying outside of Africa, like Michigan State University, wherever in the United States, even in Europe. So potentially these guys are going to be our members of innovation, and they have their different roles in the organization. And this presentation might not go into details, but basically these people are part of the system. Then lastly, we have people we call the global impact mentees. Now, global impact mentees are going to be the youth generally that are going to sign up on our platform to be mentored, but our organization is not promising them any form of financial or material support. So we are not making any commitment for any material or financial support to them. But definitely they can enroll on our platform, attend leadership webinars, and some other training we're going to be providing virtually. But our organization will not commit to any financial material support to them. So these people are the center mentees of our organization. And we are doing this to enhance access to quality education for the student. And this will help with contributing to building a more educated and skilled workforce, obviously in Africa, starting from Nigeria and extending to other parts of Africa. And again, this will help promote cultural excellence and encourage innovative thinking among students. When they are being supported material-wise, mentorship-wise, exposure-wise, they will be enhanced. It will enhance this benefit to them. And as a whole, we are going to inspire these young people to become leaders, innovators, change makers in the different part of the community endeavor. Like my previous, my co-presenter earlier said, that these guys are expected to be educated enough and be innovative enough to play a key role in the democratic process of any country. So with true leadership, true exposure, true training, and through collaboration, we will ensure that we are able to impart the knowledge these guys have to be a change maker in their respective communities. Again, what we do basically with these guys is we provide mentorship opportunities. We provide access to educational resources. And some of the associates, like I did mention, the guys in the 3 structure, they will need financial assistance at a point. So we want to make sure that we can have a container, a financial plan that we can meet with them, so they don't depend on their parents. In Nigeria, public secondary schools don't really pay a lot of money as like school fees or something, but then there is always a need for a financial support. And we want to play that role for the top 5 of any secondary school that we identify. And in doing this, we also want to play additional role in promoting entrepreneurial skills for these guys. We do understand that the world is transitioning. So academic knowledge is no longer enough. So people need to understand how to integrate their academic knowledge with innovative thinking to develop entrepreneurial skills. So we want to play a key role for our associates and even the ambassadors to be able to develop these skills right from the secondary school. And again, to do all this, we'll be introducing these guys to a lot of innovative learning platforms. It could be an on-site mentorship or education session. It could be a virtual program or webinar or leadership training that we provide, again, to help these guys promote the academic and innovative curiosity at that very level of education. It's not only when they graduate and they never find a job, then life is not really going to be easy at that point. So at that very lower age, we want to make sure that they develop this curiosity that is needed. And that we do through different sharing workshop, partnership with different stakeholders and organizations that share similar value with us. All right. So as I bring this presentation to an end, I would like to remind everyone that we have this vision to raise future African leaders, and we do this by harnessing the transformative power of unmatched or unparalleled mentorship and innovative thinking. And this is aimed at fostering community development. And how do we do this? We do this to empower the youth with inventive ideas and comprehensive mentorship. And this will enable their success and help them contribute to the broader goal of societal advancement. So this is just our approach. Like I shared previously, that we identify undeserved rural communities. Then we recruit university students within the state as ambassadors. We call them ambassadors as one of the set of people we have on the system. So the ambassador identify the public secondary schools within the community, and we provide for the ambassadors with the necessary resources to visit the schools. And the next phase after the identification of the schools is that the ambassadors will do a lot of assessment of the facilities available, because we have to work with what's available before we can know what to provide. And again, we're going to profile our students, especially the associate, so that we'll be able to understand their major requirements. We interact with the associate, understand their needs and their aspirations in life. And again, we partner with the school for different educational workshops and programs. When we have the associate onboarded, we're going to provide them with educational resources, like I did mention, different educational materials, and if we need to pay any school fees, it will be part of the funding we're going to be making budget for to cater for that. Then we provide guidance and support for the associate in the academic pursuit, and we monitor the academic progress of these guys and provide personalized feedback. We also plan to assess the performance and impact of our ambassadors as they do their job of profiling and identifying these communities. And overall, we measure the impact of our project on the community or in the school where we identify the associate. So what have we achieved so far? Just to let you guys know that we have selected or identified 3 schools in Oyo State, Nigeria. Oyo State is a state in southwest Nigeria. So within these 3 schools, we have 45 associates currently onboarded. And to help us have a smooth operation, we have developed a web application. This has cost us a lot of money, but then given the current situation on the globe in terms of security and for visibility and for scalability, we have developed a web application that can help us profile every members of the organization, the associate, the ambassadors, people that will be signing up as members of the innovation team, and even everyone that want to sign up as a global impact mentees. We have a room for them where they can sign up on our program, and we have the database stored in the cloud, so we have space for thousands of people to sign up on our platform, because we have to monitor the impact and we have to develop the metrics to monitor or to measure how we are changing life globally or within the country and the continent of Africa over time. And in the past, we have done a lot of virtual seminars that we have been able to train over 500 students or youth. Some attended virtually, some requested for the virtual recording of the training, and we be able to develop different webinars on different leadership training in education, in community development, in graduate school application, and an academic excellence. And we're able to share that with over 500 youth. And again, on the screen, we have just a snapshot from the web app where we have pictures of people that have signed up, either as an associate or ambassadors or global impact mentees. And our web app is at obviously www.whatnextmentors.org. That's our web app. Again, we cannot do this alone. We definitely need partnership and a lot of collaboration. And we'll be doing that with different approaches. Because of our time, we'll not be able to go into detail, but we'll be facilitating a lot of trust and award in honor of the effort and contribution to partners, our partners. So by doing that, we also be providing stakeholders and partners with the tools of visibility of our project and in recognition of their contribution in education problems or education solutions in Nigeria. Then by partnering with these guys who share common goal with us, we'll be able to achieve our goal as well. Yeah, I will not be able to complete this presentation without introducing our team. We have the national coordinator of this project in Nigeria, who is facilitating the different programs that we are starting with our pilot school. We have the innovation section of the organization where we have the continental lead of innovation and the deputy director. We have the digital review lead. We have national coordinator who is also in Ghana. Yes, we are also going to be working in Ghana, but then they are studying what we are doing in Nigeria as a way to learn how that will work when we extend to the Ghana project. So we have different state coordinators in Nigeria that are working to develop this project in their state, like Cross River State in South Nigeria. And we have different sections of the organization where we have like the academic section, and we have an academic director for that. We have the network and partnership section with a director as well. And we also have a director of operation in Ghana who is also helping to deploy some of the lessons they have learned in Nigeria to help with Ghana. And lastly, we have the innovation section, who is being led by one of our team as a continental lead for innovation. So what he does is basically to share our project and learn from contributions and innovative contributions and be able to incorporate into our existing framework of execution. So with this being said, I think I will end with this statement that it is our generation's turn to find purpose. It is our turn to find purpose as a young African, as a young Nigerian. It is our turn. As a young Namibia, it is our turn. So I'm hoping that we can all find purpose together as What Next Mentors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Paul, for that very detailed introduction of your organization, the work you do, and where you are at, and also where you're going. We definitely appreciate that. Thank you for stopping sharing. Wow, there's so much that can be said about the work that you both of your organizations do. And also it's very impressive to know that you have all other engagements, you have family, you have other responsibilities other than doing what you are doing. And the fact that you've taken time or you have had a passion to participate or to contribute to bringing the change that you want to see in your communities is really commendable. We are talking about unemployment rates hiking in Africa, and that doesn't mean that you're not part of that. You're not experiencing that. You're not pressed with that. But besides, you've chosen the path of taking the lead in making things better for you and for the entire society or the community, starting with the communities where you come from. So I've said this before at tea time. Sometimes I feel like when I was younger, I don't know that I was that very progressive, or just, I don't really think it's, I don't want to defend myself and say, oh, maybe the resources or maybe the technology or maybe whatever that is was not as advanced as it is now. No, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes I feel like I would have done more. And that's why perhaps I really appreciate and admire when I see people of your age or in your generation. I know we could be in the, similar generation, but just thinking of you as people who are experiencing the challenges that every other youth is experiencing, but at least you're doing something. I thought I was doing things for myself. I worked hard to develop myself, which is not necessarily bad. And I'm not judging anybody else, a youth that is focusing on their personal development. But I think you doing extra, going another mile to not think about just yourself, but others, and even those younger, the generations to come after you. Sincerely, it's something that we should all celebrate or recognize. So thank you so much. And that's one, and two, for even accepting to participate in this African Tea Time program. It's people like you actually that can be a motivation to others, that can help share knowledge that Africa is progressing. Things are happening in Africa. Our younger people are doing more than we can see. So a platform like this is really to bring out the wonderful work that is happening either in the grassroots level, national level, different capacities. And we appreciate the fact that you sacrificed your time. Joseph, I know it's going to 10 or maybe around that, past that, but thank you so much for sacrificing your time all the way from Namibia to share with us. So at this point, I have a few questions, but I don't want to start. If there's anybody here that wants to engage Joseph and Paul with either a comment, a question, anything else that you want to add to the discussion, please go ahead. I will ask you to unmute yourself and speak. Raise your hand. I see Joseph's hand is raised. If you can add that question on the chat as well, if that's much better for you. But Joseph, you can go ahead. I see your hand.
No, thank you very much, Damaris. Actually, my question is to Paul. Paul, I wanted to know two things. How are you involving your government or your state in the work that you're doing with your organization? And also, how are you recognizing artificial intelligence as a key strategic outlook or tool that you can be able to use within your organization? And how is it something that you're strategizing to ensure that it's also at the forefront of the development of the work that you're doing? I think those are really the two fundamental questions I wanted to know from your presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Damaris, you want me to respond now, or probably take more questions?
Sure, this is the discussion part. Just feel free. Respond.
Okay.
Yes, you can go ahead and respond, please.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much, Joseph, for that very brilliant question. So so this is like I would say the 4th year of this project. It's been going on for a while. We have been doing a lot to test the execution part of the project. And I'm happy to have someone on the team who is actually one of our our executive team in Nigeria, the national coordinator of Nigeria, is on the call just to listen to this presentation. So we starting from the government, we ask questions, and I would like to let you know that if not for all African countries, but for majority of African countries, if you as a young person start a project and you want to get a lot of years from the government before you do anything, I can bet you that you might not be able to do anything forever, because we still do not have government that is interested in what you want to do. They are not interested. So before you can get government to really pay attention to what you are doing, it is very pivotal that you leverage other means to start doing that. Maybe now we are in the era of social media, we are in the era of technology, we are in the era of artificial intelligence. When the impact and the measurable metrics of your outcome are becoming obvious in the general public, then the government will have no reservation but to really want to pay attention to what you are doing. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that when we started, we actually approached the government, like write a letter to schools, notifying them that we want to do this. The responses from the teachers were not really encouraging. An example is, okay, yeah, I am the principal of this school, but I don't have the right and the ability to give you the chance to do it. You have to go to the local government education coordinator. Then you go to this local government education coordination office, and you might not see the educational coordinator for a month. You keep going there, they keep telling you, come back tomorrow, come back next tomorrow. You might not be able to see this person at all. Then there's this idea of corruption. You go there, they might likely ask you to bring money that is not even available to develop your project itself. I've had a lot of people, even here in the United States, that they have shared with me how they plan to do a lot of projects in Nigeria and find that they need more money to give as like a bribe to people. Even more, they need more money to give as a bribe, more than the money needed for the real project. Then the back out, it's like, I don't have $10 to give you as a bribe. Even the budget for this project is not up to $10. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, the precise response to your question will be that what I'm doing is to leverage technology, social media, to just do what I want to do. And then in the long run, when we begin to see results, then we can be kind of intimating the government. Hey, this is what we are doing. This is how we are measuring the metrics or the metric for our results. Then from there, we see what they can say. But we are trying to kind of work. Yes, we might not be able to work exclusively like out of government or something, but we are trying to work slightly independent on government, because they likely not going to help us. Now, looking into AI and things like that, yes, definitely. One of the trainings, one of the webinars and academic training we're going to be giving to our associates and mentees is the current advancement in artificial intelligence. And we have different partners that they are into education and AI trainings. We have a partner like that. So they're going to be coming in to train our associates and even the ambassadors on the current global trend on AI and how they can position themselves for, current and even future opportunities in the areas of AI. I wouldn't know if this answers your question a bit. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I really think it answered my question, and it was really well thought through.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph, for that question and the response from what's happening with my camera. And the response from Paul. Oh, I see Francis's hand up. Go ahead, Francis.
Thank you so much, Damaris and the team, and for the presenters, Paul and I like Ndondi from Namibia. That was quite an experience that we are looking at. My name is Gishuki Francis from Kenya, but I'm a global citizen too, a senior youth mentor with 30 years of experience across Africa and also across the globe, all the 7 continents or 6. And I was listening to the gentleman sharing their story. I have a few comments and maybe just some highlights that we could also explore more. That the fact that the starting point of a young person in Africa is uncertainty. That's the starting point of any young person you meet in Africa is uncertainty. Always tells you, I'm not sure. What's your plan tomorrow? I'm not aware. You know, so there's always uncertainty that comes with the young people in Africa. And I think the 2 gentlemen have also raised quite important context in which the young people in Africa find themselves. You know, and they find themselves in very tough socioeconomic backgrounds, you know, and the educational barriers. And I think that's what especially Paul talked about, the educational barriers are quite strong there. And the dropout rates are quite, deploring in Africa, you know. And when you talk about the political instability and also the political conflicts that also young people meet. And I think when Namibia was talking about the elections that are coming up, and I love what he said, that, you know, all this starts at home, in the value systems, engaging, and how is home also an example of a good politically managed home, because also there's politics at home. So how is it well managed there? So this is where it's beginning, and I think there's a good conversation we can pick from there. And just to raise the fact that mentorship is one of the most forgotten contributors of youth empowerment and leadership. That young people need someone, they need role modeling, they need people who believes, people who trusts, and people who can invest, and people who can journey with them. So this is a big conversation. And when Paul is talking about the African continent, I was just curious to see what other steps you would want to make. And Paul, reach out to me at any point because you have a shoulder here. You have someone who is very passionate about youth mentorship across Africa, and looking at this, you know, cross section of how then we build a mentorship movement in Africa. And maybe there are other people I know that we could also try to reach out and see the possibility. But the question for your pilot project in Nigeria, just looking at the selection criteria for 5 top students, I think sometimes it's not just about the highest quality of education, but also the other social and what you call the soft skills that also the young people are showing. And I think when you're doing the selection, it'd be good to, you know, blend these criteria. That's not just in terms of the highest scholar or the highest academic, but there are other people with different abilities. And because it is not the only solution to their outward, to the young people's development in their lives, you know, there's also the professional, the innovation sometimes comes in on board. So I was just checking with your criteria of the selection, if there would be room to improve it, to make it more accommodative, so there are more parameters than just academic. Otherwise, great job.
Those are great comments. And for those who are meeting Gichuki for the first time, Gichuki has presented at tea time before, and I'll encourage you to go together with his colleague Eliud Akanga. So I'll encourage you to go back to our YouTube channel. That's the African Studies Center, Michigan State University YouTube. Their video is on sport and youth development in Africa. If I may be paraphrasing, but I remember that's what the theme was about, sport and youth development in Africa. Gichuki, was this last year, sometime last year?
Yeah, it was last year, towards the end of last year, almost towards the end of last year.
The fall semester, just please.
Yeah, the fall semester.
You will learn a lot. It was a panel of about 6 or even more people that were doing that discussion. And thank you so much for all the comments, Gichuki. And you can tell that he is very knowledgeable and very passionate about working and developing the youth. in terms of mentorship and in all other kinds of support. So I think the question that you had for Paul, maybe a question comment-ish, is that what in your selection criteria for the associates, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about your selection criteria.
Yeah, thank you so much, Francis, for that. I appreciate the comment as well as pointing to asking this kind of questions. We do understand that academic might not be like the sole criteria to make selection, but we just want to start from somewhere. In fact, we have different aspects we want to look at, but we want to start with like the top 5 students in the class, academic wise. And I believe doing that for like the first 2 or 3 years can help us learn more on how the system will work. Let's say at the country level, as we make progress, funding, you do agree with me that funding is not a joke. And one of the approaches we want to use with funding is kind of creating partners with the whole school boys association of the secondary school. For example, if you go to, let's say, my secondary school, I believe there are probably 5, 10, even 20 people that somehow they are successful, no matter what. I mean, they don't have to be the Bill Gates, but then they are successful professionally and even quote and unquote financially. So one of the things we want to do is when we identify a secondary school, we want to ask questions, some deeper questions from the community, from the former student of this school, like who are the few people we can reach out to around the world? They could be in Nigeria and they could actually be not even be in the country. Like, hey, we learned that you attended these secondary schools, 15, 25, 45 years ago. This is the project our NGO is developing and we need support. Support could come in form of direct financial funding, and it could also come in form of materials. They could also come in form of scholarship award or scholarship, whatever. For example, maybe, sorry, I can't pronounce your last name very well, but let's say so Francis award of academic excellence. You want to create like, hey, I'm giving it to this set of people in my secondary school, and they don't need to, like, we write your name, we put every award in your name, but that's just one of the funding plan. So when we learn how the different funding plan, we're also going to be writing the general letters seeking for grants, both locally and internationally, even to MSU and some other NGOs. We're also going to be engaging foreign consulate, United States Embassy in Nigeria, UK consulate in Nigeria. Say, hey, this is the project we are doing. If we are able to identify these guys, how could your embassy help facilitate their advancement in education? Maybe they want to support them to even gain undergraduate scholarship in the United States or even in the UK or whatever. Or maybe they have some amount they could donate to us as a form of supporting our project. So when we learn how this work within the first like 2 to 3 years of having the associate, just focus on the academy, then we can extend to, okay, we also want to extend to like the top 10, 5 on the academic and maybe 5 on some other non-academic direct criteria. Like you did mention, it could be leadership, it could be some social stuff, but you're going to agree with me that no organization can fund every student in the class because that is the job of the government. Does that make sense?
Francis, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, Paul. And I think when you talk about the, of course, the timelines about which criteria for now, you said academic. But remember, sometimes when you take too long to come back to other parameters, then it is already, the identity is already given to that institution. So it becomes a bit tricky to retreat back. But I agree with you. It's always where to start from. And even if there was only one among the 5, who also has other key qualities. I'll give you something that I did a lot of that in schools here in Kenya, and my program was for the general mentorship, but I was targeting more of the vulnerable groups in schools. And one of them was the teenage mothers. These are girls who got pregnant when they were in the same system in secondary school, and they're sort of having challenges and having the stigma around that. And therefore, what we did was to ensure that there are also other variables that are there. That could be teenage pregnancy, but there are those also who are staying with their grandmothers, but they're not teenage mothers, but they're staying with their grandmothers, or for that scenario, and that blended very well, because then you're addressing a situation of feeling the intimidation that comes with it, but then they realize, so it's not just the teenage mothers, this also is there. So I'm looking at your situation, and given the background you gave about Nigeria and maybe Ghana and maybe other regions you're looking at, it might be in the third year you start introducing a new package, a new program, but maybe with a different support mechanisms around it. Because one of the things that is in Africa, and you know it very well, Paul, is that people are questioning now, what is the benefits of education if you go to the highest level? People are questioning that, because the question about its relevance, is it bringing food on the table? That's a question in Africa today, and you know it very well. And you'll find other people are looking at other talent. So talent and innovation, which you have brought very well, is also becoming a critical conversation. And some of the greatest innovators are not the highest academic achievers.
Wonderful. So the good thing about a forum like this is to get mentorship. It's offered free, and also to have some type of engagement that otherwise we wouldn't, or some ideas, in fact, that otherwise we wouldn't have been thinking about, that can help our organizations, Paul and Joseph, move forward. So we thank you, Francis, for that. It's coming from your experience, a long time experience working with the young people. So we really appreciate your being here all the time and contributing to the discussion. So my closing, anybody, before I ask, not necessarily many questions, but any questions from anybody else in the forum? Okay. Perhaps as we go ahead, I wanted to, this is for you, Joseph. It does seem to me from your presentation that in Namibia, the challenge is a little bit different from what I would think. I'll talk about Kenya. You see that for the most part, the youth are not politically engaged, or engaged even in a meaningful way, or even in the electoral process. They don't care about voting anymore, because one is they don't trust the process. They mistrust the leadership, they mistrust the process. But it didn't seem to be the issue in Namibia. For us, they just don't vote because does my vote count is the big question that the youth ask. Sometimes the elections are rigged. So many things to do with the system. So is that an experience that's perhaps prompted you to think, okay, this is one part of the issue that we can try to solve with our organization, or is it something else? For you, I heard you talk more about lack of information, misinformation, which kind of providing that voter education or information is important. But in terms of engagement, do you think the youth are still going to be engaged? Do they trust the leadership and the system?
Damaris, thank you for that question. One thing that I would want to point out is just, voter apathy is everywhere globally. I would say that the young people that we find in our generations, I guess, maybe it's because of the institutional issues. They don't really trust all the systems. That is a very clear issue. It's also part of the reasons why we started our organization, is to strengthen and ensure that young people don't have voter apathy, really. But to be more clear, it's not enough that we just speak about voter apathy as one of the key things, because for that we have already communicated ourselves to say we need to get young people to the point where they are the ones that are holding government institutions accountable. I mean, they are citizens in their own country. One beautiful thing that I would say that doesn't happen as much is the privilege that we have of our peace in Southern Africa, right? I'm not going to say that other issues don't happen in the world, but what I've also been able to see is that within the Southern African community, we are more peaceful. And because of that, when you speak about voter apathy and all of these things, people think it's alien, but it's there, it exists. It's more like it's deteriorating. So for us, it's about protecting that. It's about protecting the institutions that already exist. It's about strengthening them and making sure that they live longer and that they represent all of us. And that for us has been the key. So currently, even right now, we are working on an exchange program between Botswana and South Africa to have exchange election observers within their elections that are happening within this year, and more so ensure that in the long run, we can be able to engage and learn more about different cultures within these different countries. Because of the strategic outlook of our countries, we are seeing that, for example, now, the barriers have been removed between Namibia and Botswana. You don't need a visa or you don't need a passport to go to Botswana. You just need your ID and you are going to the next border. So with that, we have also realized that our democratic values are the same. And as such, we are focusing on what is the most positive things that we can be able to do. Because also with the conversation that I was having and the question that I asked Paul was, really in terms of government engagement, because for us, government accountability is important. We will not leave our government not to be accountable. And because Namibia has one of the freest press in Africa, we are accorded that responsibility from our media. Our media does not miss points. They will be the ones to grill government. They will be the ones to be there. And so when we speak about voter apathy, we say voter apathy is a reality, but it's about maintaining the institutions to ensure that young people are encouraged to engage with these institutions.
That's one. Thank you for that. Really very long and brief answer at the same time. I would say I would commend the government of Nigeria. I know it's not Nigeria. Sorry, Paul. I know that I'm not, but Namibia, I meant to say, because really, when even the press, you have the press can be a part of a big part of engaging the youth. That's something that's different than it happens in many other regions of the world, even, and in this case, in many African countries. So being sure that, or even not being sure, but knowing that you have support, knowing that somebody is there to listen makes a big difference in how you would expect the youth to engage. But in places where even being part of raising your voice is not a possibility, then it becomes difficult really to try to work with the youth, try to motivate them to be part of any process, whether it's political or anything. But I'm not trying to say you don't have challenges in Namibia, but and we had this discussion before when you were here. I always think that Namibia and Botswana, particularly to me, are doing something different than we are not. The rest of us are not. But that's wonderful to hear from you, Joseph, about the issues,
of course,
as well as breakthroughs, at least, that you've been able to make as a country.
No, of course. And I just wanted to add that one of our biggest fears now that we discovered oil and gas, as young people, we are...
as young people, inviting problems.
So yes, as young people, we have gotten to the place where we understand, and also having to look at case studies such as Nigeria, case studies such as Angola, and we're saying, yes, of course, we're talking about our peace. It's well and good, but if we don't prepare our systems for all of this, Namibia will start producing oil in 2026. And if those institutions are not put in place and they are not held accountable, we are going to be in a situation where our own government will not be able to listen to us. We will not be able to really get anything out of what we have been blessed with by God. And we are really looking, and we are keen to say, at the end of the day, we can't look at the problems of other countries, but we have to say where we are and where we are positioning ourselves as Namibia. It's to be a hub and to be a sustainable hub for that. And through that, we have already focused on making sure that, firstly, unemployment is tackled effectively in not only government agencies, not only the private sector, but the civil society space as well. How do we create employment in the civil society space? Those are some of the questions that we are asking ourselves, because we have realized that employment cannot only come from two places. And the way we run non-profit organizations in Namibia is changing. We want to make sure that we are running these non-profits to ensure that they still receive revenues. One thing that I've learned when I was in the States was just donations and grants. For us in Namibia, we don't have that, right? So most of the time you get donations, very little, but most of the time you get grants. And that also becomes a bit problematic, because when you don't have donors that are donating directly to your institution, they don't look invested in the work that you're doing. And so those are some of the areas that we're saying, let's strengthen that. Let's ensure that we are effectively carrying that out as well, to encourage these people that are employed to be involved in that whole process. So having said that, we have over 1,038 volunteers across the whole country right now as we speak. And most of these volunteers are really in the keen eye and interest of every single political party. Every political party would want to engage with them, how they get to be involved in our organization and what our organization is.
Oh, did we lose you, Paul?
All about. And that's where also, other issues that we have been able to experience. We say that those things are not only happening in other African countries. They happen. We have our problems, of course. But I think more importantly, our problems are not the same. So we deal with our problems in the manner that allows for us to be able to experience more economic growth and economic sustainability, and more so importantly, youth employment and youth empowerment.
Wonderful, 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 Joseph. Being proactive is, I probably think, one of the best way to go. Francis, were you trying to raise your hand?
Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, sorry, I was listening to Joseph, and one of the things that really was inspiring me is the fact that the volunteer base for his organization is quite huge, and that's an asset when you're working with young people, because there's a big resource, and end of the day, the young people take responsibility in their own hands and develop it. And I think, Damaris, you sort of came back later to bring in the fact that when sometimes the waters are very quiet, sometimes they're also very deep, and maybe you are thinking about also what could be the other underlying factors in Namibia. Maybe Joseph might be knowing more. I know I've worked a bit in Southern Africa, in Zambia, in Zimbabwe. The trend is more or less, what actually Joseph was mentioning. And I remember, early days as young people, we went through trainings, not because there were problems, but it was the intention of the institution that was, training us to prepare us into a future adults who are responsible adults. And I think that's exactly what I think the organization is doing, purposefully empowering young people to be able to take responsibility of the situations. And I love going back to how are they changing their own backyards? How are they changing their own family situations? But the question I wanted to ask Joseph was just look at the national level in terms of the structures that have been put by the organization. Do you want to look at it from a national level and what the structures you've put? Two, I know you talked about the funding element. This Africa where funding is not given by the government. If you wait, as Paul said, you'll wait forever and nothing will ever be done. And I think Paul mentioned when I was doing projects, actually I only informed the government that this is ongoing, but I'm not seeking permission to go to do it. Because already you are an NGO, it means you have the legal mandate. So it's true, you have to get your work going, and they will find you along the way. So for Joseph, just to check on that kind of curriculum, have you developed one that you're using, or how are you running your institution also in Namibia? Thanks, Joseph.
No, I just wanted you to repeat your first question. Actually, your second one is clear. It's your second one your first one that I'm not sure of.
it's just about the, are you national-wide in Namibia? Are there structures that then are supporting you across the country?
No, amazing. Yes, of course. We have our organization currently is in 8 regions. Regions are what you guys call provinces. And we have different institutions that we are working with. So for us, we are big on collaboration. So we're working with institutions such as the National Youth Council, which is a government entity. And we're also working with institutions that are focusing on entrepreneurship as well. So in terms of that, our structure is well placed. However, the concern is, again, volunteering representation, the exploitation of our volunteers. We don't have a volunteering hub in the country, and we plan to be the first volunteering hub in Namibia that really caters for making sure that volunteers are accountable to the mandate of every institution that they are working with, but also more so importantly, that institutions are accountable to the volunteers to ensure that these volunteers are at least catered for, right? If we're talking about high unemployment rate in our country, you don't expect a volunteer to be able to have money to go for a volunteering activity. So that means we want to ensure that we can cater for a volunteer to be able to have transport to just move from point A to point B. We want to be able to ensure that a volunteer can be able to eat something when they are volunteering. Not necessarily to say that we are paying them, but that little stipend goes a long way to ensure that they can be able to gain the experience that they need. Right? And your second question, for us, I think we have really gotten to a place where we believe that the ideals and the outlines of the work that we're doing encompasses so many areas, and it encompasses so many activities that need to be outlined. I feel most of the biggest concerns that we have is defining what civic education is in our communities, and more so importantly, making sure that we create involvement for our people. And I think in terms of that, I believe that we have so much that can be able to be worked on, but more so I've learned to understand that not everything can be done by us. And it's about ensuring that we are both involved in that whole process as stakeholders.
That's wonderful, Joseph. Thank you so much. I love the fact that we're talking about volunteer mentality here. Sometimes, as you say, there are constraints to that. Funding is a big problem, especially we're talking about youth that are seeking means to even sustain their livelihoods. So volunteer can come with all its challenges, but I'm thankful that you're doing something to create that mentality among the youth that it's good to give to your community. It's good to give something to your society, whether it's financial or time or whatever kind of ability that you have. I will tell you, it's not all good. I would say in the US, I've come to learn so much about how volunteering can really provide paths for development. Because sometimes if we put money first in everything, like what do I get out of that? Then it becomes problematic in the sense that we're not even offering what we have, the abilities that we have. We don't think that we can offer something that is not monetary. So the fact that you're trying to train the youth that you work with or provide that sense of understanding that you have something to offer and it doesn't have to be money. Volunteering is not about wasting your time and not gaining anything back. In fact, you can create a network out of engaging with other people outside your family, outside your community, or outside your comfort zone. So there's so much that can come out of volunteering, and we're not trying to say it's all easy, because as you say, how do you get yourself from point A to B if you didn't have those resources or the organization that you're working with cannot provide? But just even learning to believe that you can offer something, you can chip in, you can contribute in small and bigger ways, depending on where you're positioned. So that's great. Last thing, what did I have for Paulo? I mean, I think most of the questions that I had have been asked and answered in the process, but I wanted to mention something about alumni. You said old boys and old girls. You didn't say girls, you said old, whatever. You didn't say girls. I didn't hear you say girls, or you said old boys. I don't know how it's only old boys. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I'm trying to say that alumni engagement, alumni of all sorts. It could be the institutions, academic institutions. It could be alumni of the programs that you run. I mean, those will be your greatest asset. Those, the people that you've worked with and engaging them after even they leave your organization, that's the biggest asset that you can have. Here as I work, my other role is to coordinate alumni programs. And I can tell you I've learned so much of what it means to have to engage alumni for my responsibilities, alumni of Michigan State University, either to engage with the institution itself or even with the African students that we have here. Recently, we had a mentorship a town hall. And it was amazing, you know, somebody who understands your organization, understands the person that you are, understands the context that you're coming from would be a better advisor in my context, or a better advisor for the work that you do. So engaging the people that you, finding ways for continuity, not saying that after you graduate or after you leave the organization, you're not useful. I mean, just find a way of creating those connections even beyond the particular activity that you're having with that person in that organization. So when you talked about that as one of the ways that you're going to try, or if you are doing it, I didn't get that, but if that's one of the avenues that you're pursuing in terms of getting resources for your organization, all types of resources plus sustainability part of it, I think I really, really support that. Alumni of any category are the best people that you can engage or work with for sustainability and for support in different capacities. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I got that. And yes, that's correct. That's actually our big sustainability plan. For example, a high school student who has received support from us, if such gain admission to the university, I believe a good number of them will be interested to become an ambassador. And that is already a plus. If after university education, they either find a job or they go to graduate school, then they are potentially become mentors and potential members of the innovation team. I did mention that the innovation members are going to be university, graduate students studying outside of Africa. So I've spoken with some few guys, even here at MSU, and they're going to be our members of the innovation team. We're going to engage those guys for example, organizing international webinars, organizing, helping us with writings, maybe like a research grant or fostering international collaborations with our organizations. So someone who is an ambassador today, who is a university undergraduate, who has volunteered with us, if such a person happens to gain admission outside of Africa, the person has a chance to remain on our organization, but at this time, as in the innovation divisions of the organization. So we have this sustainability transition that I believe it might not be all the people that will work with us, but at least a good number of people that will benefit from the organization will like to function in the higher level of the organization as we grow. And probably in the next 10 to 15 years, we probably have alumni that they are not just helping us in terms of just volunteering, but they're actually in financial position to give back to the organization for a greater exploit. Yeah, so that's kind of a very tip of an iceberg of our sustainability plan.
I definitely agree that you're going the right direction in terms of sustainability. And again, it's kind of you're being intentional about it. You know, when I graduated from my college or my university in Kenya, nobody trained me to be an alumni. Nobody gave me a reason why I should go back as an alumni. It's not something that was discussed. I wasn't prepared to be an alumni of my university. But right now, if you ask me if I want to campaign, I will say, develop the students, prepare them to be alums of your institution while you have them. You're not going to wait. We are not going to wait here at Michigan State University. And because I work with African alumni, don't engage them while they're here and expect them to, while they leave for different posts or positions elsewhere, or just once they leave the university and now I want to engage them as an alumni. It never works like that. Give them the reason to come back. Engage with them while they're here with intentionality that these are the people that you're going to need, not just for support. We're not doing this for money. We're just doing this knowing that there are various types of support and resources that these people that can provide your organization. So you being intentional, Paul, about we need you back, let that be very, very clear that we're not letting you go just completely because you've graduated from this organization. No, we want you to come back, and this is how we can engage you back once you leave. So, wow, this conversation can go on and on and on, but we might want to end it here, especially because Joseph and others, Rotimi, I haven't heard you say something or type something. Where are you based? I'm just asking. Rotimi.
Yes, good evening. It's evening over here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm joining the call from Nigeria, one of the team member for Youth Mentors Hub Initiative. Thank you for having us on the call. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and for
that is
supporting.
actually the national coordinator for Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you so much, and it's good to have you here. And we also want to appreciate the work that you do as a team, and well represented by Paul here. So if you allow me, we can end this, but before we close the call, Joseph, do you have anything like kind of closing comments before we leave?
No, thank you very much, Damaris. Of course, my closing remarks are just collaboration across the African continent is the most important thing. Such initiatives that we should be able to be engaging on. And you guys have really brought me to an engagement where I feel comfortable to be able to share my work. And I think this should go on. We should continue doing this, especially as you're communicated about alums. I think it's always very important that we're able to do that. Having said that, it's a beautiful evening here. I gotta go sleep.
You need to.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. And you're an alum. You should know that Joseph is an alum of Michigan State University as a Mandela Washington Fellow that I got to meet last summer. So this is what I'm talking about. The building networks and engaging across or over time, it never stops. I'm just happy that I got to meet Joseph just within the summer, but knowing the work that he does, I knew that we are going to bring Joseph back in another way. And thank you so much, Joseph, for accepting to come back to MSU through the African Tea Time. We look forward to engaging with you more. Just Paul, please, closing comments.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you could hear me clearly, I want to thank everyone on this call. And obviously, it's being recorded. So for those that were listening to it at some point, we are grateful for listening to this event. And just like my colleague rightly said, the big deal is collaboration. So one of the challenges across, I would say in Nigeria, I wouldn't know if that, like, I don't have any statistic to say across Africa, but at least in Nigeria is that social media has kind of permeated the system that everybody wants to do something. Most of them do have sustainability plan. Most of them don't have any structure. Just because you have, like some pennies and you just want to make a noise, and then people praise you on social media and nothing happens afterward. So it's one of the big challenges. So funding for events are usually very limited. Like people are not interested to fund you because they too are not doing anything. So they are not interested to see what you are doing. And like we have already, talked extensively about, government is not ready. They're not going to read your letters for several years. So if you write to them, you're going to be busy waiting for response. It's not going to come. So collaboration, and I'm glad to meet with people like Francis and Joseph and many others here that we can take this conversation further. This is just the basis. It's just an introductory meetings. So I'm hoping we can take it further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. And that's what Tea Time is supposed to do, bring people together with similar initiatives, like minds, and we continue the conversations outside, and even we can plan to come back and continue it here. But thank you so much. Francis, did you accidentally raise your hand?
No. It was very interesting what Paul said, and I think it's a good conversation we can have into the future. In our days, it used to be called a briefcase NGO. You know, a briefcase NGO, it has no office, it has no structures, but it has a paper. And now we are moving into a new era, which is likely to be the social media NGOs. Like they are living a lot in the NGO, in the social media space, but on the ground, they don't exist. So these are issues that we can pick into the next conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. You see, we're building a big network here of alumni of Tea Time. Perhaps we'll, again, sometime in the future, bring a group of you together and see what kind of conversations and networks that you can have in this forum. But I want to thank everybody that joined us today. Look forward to engaging with you more. We have the African Tea Time events every other Thursday, sometimes consecutive Thursdays. But if you're interested in being added to our mailing list, please, you can send me a message and I'll be happy to do that. But otherwise, I want to really thank you, Joseph and Paul, for accepting to lead the discussion today. And I'm hoping that many good returns can come out of the work that you do, and more, even more than you expect. But the work that you're doing, it's really impactful. It's making a difference. And continue doing what you do. And you will be seen, you will be visible, and you'll get the support that you need, especially the financial support. It's what is always the biggest challenge. But again, I can't thank you enough. I want to end it here and look forward to talking to you again or connecting with you again. Thank you and bye.